Battle Through the Heavens. Chapter 172. The Flight Toward the Great Tager Desert Border. The lingering bite of the frost recedes into a dull ache as Xiaoyan moves through the city, his pulse still uneven against the weight of the vial. Every step away from the workshop carries the ghost of that chill, a physical reminder of the heat soon to follow. He reaches the plaza, where massive, silent wings stir the dust, offering a long, weary flight toward the desert's edge.
Xiaoyan stepped out of the Alchemist Guild and looked around the streets of Black Rock City. He turned toward the center of the city, heading for the flight transport hub. He navigated several unfamiliar intersections and stopped to ask for directions twice. 10 minutes later, he reached the transport plaza. Over a dozen massive avian creatures occupied the space. These were rear-wing birds. They were not magical beasts, just large, docile birds easily tamed by humans. Because they were rare, only the Empire had the resources to maintain such a transport network. These birds lacked the speed of true magical beasts, but they possessed incredible endurance. A single full meal allowed them to fly for 4 or 5 days straight. They could carry cargo weighing 5 or 6 times their own body mass over long distances. During times of war, the Empire would seize them for military use, only returning them to the public once the fighting ceased. These creatures were veterans of the sky. A massive wall of sound hit Xiaoyan as he approached. His ears rang for a moment before he adjusted. He shook his head and looked at the thick crowds filling the plaza. Every rear-wing bird had a long line of people waiting beside it. Men used wooden ladders to climb onto the birds, shouting and struggling to secure the heavy harnesses. Xiaoyan watched for a moment, then pulled a passerby aside to ask where to buy a ticket. He walked to the southeast corner of the plaza to find the booth. A long line stretched away from the counter. He exhaled a frustrated breath and took his place at the back. The constant noise of the plaza rubbed at his nerves. He massaged his temples and felt a sudden flash of envy for the little fairy doctor. Having a personal flying magical beast was far more convenient than this. One whistle and she could cross the Dochi continent at will. He clenched his teeth and made a silent vow to get a flying mount of his own someday. A woman's voice broke his thoughts.
Sir, where are you headed?
Xiaoyan blinked. It was his turn. A woman in ornate clothing sat behind the counter. She wore a practiced smile that didn't reach her eyes. Her fingers tapped the desk with impatience.
The eastern border.
Xiaoyan said.
Near the Tager Desert.
The woman pursed her lips and let out a faint sigh of annoyance. She began to tear a piece of treated animal hide to make a ticket. As she reached out to hand it over, her eyes caught the badge on his chest. Her arm froze. She frowned, looking closer at his robes, then quickly pulled the ticket back. Her expression shifted into a sweet, forced smile.
Master, are you an alchemist?
She asked carefully.
I am.
Xiaoyan said, his brow furrowing.
Is there a problem?
No, not at all.
She said, shaking her head quickly. Her posture turned respectful.
By imperial decree, alchemists receive free flight transport. We have specialized flying beasts reserved just for your rank.
Xiaoyan was stunned. He hadn't expected the status of an alchemist to provide such perks, even in small matters. It was no wonder people treated his profession with such reverence. The prestige was even greater than he had imagined. He felt the weight of the gazes from the people nearby, a mix of awe and envy. He patted the heavy swan ruler on his back and followed the woman as she led him away. She walked ahead of him, her narrow waist and hips swaying with deliberate rhythm, her tight clothing highlighting every curve. Xiaoyan gave her a brief, flat look before turning his eyes away. He wasn't the type to let a woman's movements distract him from his goals. They passed through a long corridor and emerged at a different platform. A beast stood there, no smaller than the rear wing birds, but far more aggressive. Xiaoyan sensed the energy radiating from it. This was a true magical beast. Judging by the aura, it was a first-tier creature. He felt the wind energy swirling around its wings. A wind-type magical beast would be significantly faster than the common birds. A small cabin made of lightweight wood was lashed securely to the creature's back. Inside were several private rooms. Xiaoyan noticed 2 other alchemists were already settled in their quarters.
Master, this magical beast is bound for the eastern border of the Jama Empire.
The woman said softly.
It will stop at the city closest to the Tagar Desert.
Xiaoyan nodded. He stepped off the ground and landed lightly on the bird's back. The woman watched him with a lingering, expectant gaze, but he ignored it and entered his room. He didn't realize that as a high-ranking alchemist, he was entitled to certain personal services from the attendants. The woman's display had been an invitation to take her along as a servant, but Xiaoyan's mind was elsewhere. Shortly after he boarded, another alchemist arrived. The beast's massive wings began to beat, stirring up clouds of wind energy. The creature lurched and then soared into the sky. With a piercing cry, the beast followed the trainer's command and banked toward the east. Xiaoyan sat by the window, watching the clouds fall behind them. The word airplane surfaced in his mind, a strange, distant memory from another life. He shook his head with a bitter smile and closed his eyes. He centered his mind and entered a state of cultivation. Black Rock City was far from the border. Even with the speed of a magical beast, the trip would take 3 days. He refused to waste that time. The sky turned dark.
Xiaoyan was deep in his rhythm when a sound from the next room jolted him awake. He opened his eyes. The moon was high, casting a pale light through the darkness. He let out a long breath and looked toward the left wall. The sounds of a man's heavy breathing and a woman's moans pierced through the wood.
Damn it!
He muttered. Now he understood what the woman at the booth had been hinting at. This was the kind of service the other alchemists were enjoying. He couldn't focus on cultivation with that noise in his ears.
He sighed and pulled several items from his storage ring. Blood lotus essence, ice spirit flame grass, and a 3rd-tier monster core. He laid them carefully on the table and flicked his finger against the pitch-black ring on his hand. Yao Lao drifted out in a wisp of light.
Ready to refine the blood lotus pill?
Yao Lao asked, glancing at the materials.
Yes, I've prepared everything.
Xiaoyan said with a nod.
I want to get this done early. If our luck holds, we might find a heavenly flame soon.
Yao Lao smiled. He drifted toward the table.
Very well. The blood lotus pill is a high-grade Tier 5 pill. It will take 2 days to refine. If you are restless, we might as well begin.
Tier 5?
Xiaoyan's eyes widened. He hadn't realized the pill was that advanced. In the Jama Empire, perhaps only Ji Yuha, the Pill King, could refine something of that level.
Watch and learn.
Yao Lao said.
Observing the refinement of a high-level pill will do you much good.
The old man extended his hand. A thick, bone-white flame erupted from his palm. Xiaoyan licked his lips as he stared at the fire. That was the heavenly flame he dreamed of possessing. Yao Lao waited for the heat to peak, then tossed the monster core into the bone-chilling flame. The refinement began.